Oh yeah. Yep. There wasn't any food in there, but they just know to knock it over and check. Well, that's not true. There's a beer bottle. They're after my beer bottle. Doom. Okay. Doesn't seem close, but by the ladder I can touch him. Get out of here. Alright. Here she is. 1993 VT 600? VLX 600? I don't know. Shadow 600. Yeah, had this bike for a while. I bought it totally stock, and it had pretty low miles when I bought it. Like less than 4,000 miles when I bought it, which is just unbelievable for a 1993. Yeah, got in a wreck like maybe a year and a half or a year after owning it, which fucked up the bike pretty bad. Totaled it. Had to get it off salvage title. Basically the same process I'm doing with my Sportster I had to do for this. And yeah, did all that shit, built it back up, decided to hardtail it. So here she is. Anyway, I guess we'll go through front to back. Everybody's been bugging me kind of about something a little bit more detailed, so here we are. We'll start with the front end. Firestone DOTs, Deluxe Champions, or whatever these are called. Let's see the size. 4.0 on a 19-inch rim. So this is the stock front wheel. I've just painted it black. And then these tires, which I got the idea from Lane Split. Added some 39mm fork boots, just some like Amazon dealies. Nothing special there. Throttle addiction headlight, something a little smaller. I fabricated my own mount using the factory bolts here from the factory headlight. And then just got it like kind of sunk in a little bit more. I'm kind of one of the few people that actually like the factory headlight on these Shadows, but I don't know, this is just different than the factory one. Kind of sets it apart a little bit more, and it kind of matches the tank, not just the color, but it's got this kind of odd shape. But anyway, that's that. The wiring is nothing special. I just covered it in a little fabric, make it look a little different. There's my demon bell. Factory cooler, jug of alcohol for when you stop and you want to party with the boys. Ready to go. No, not just kidding. Coolant overflow. Super easy mod. A lot of dudes are doing them, and you should too. It's a good first time welding project. It's a good first thing to do to your Shadow. It's easy to make. You can get really complicated with it, make it bolt on, like my cage bolts on and off. So you can take the metal cage off completely off the bike. And then I utilized one of the washers down here and just welded that to the cage itself. So you loosen just the top bolt, or you take the top bolt out, you loosen the bottom bolt, and then you can pull the cage off. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. Getting ahead of myself. Continuing on up the front end, just some standard like 6-inch Z-bars, nothing special. I've cut off quite a bit off each end. The standard kind of Vans grips you see on a lot of bikes. I actually like them a lot. On that lane split trip I was on, these were pretty comfortable. These and some leather gloves, and I was good. Which was the longest trip I've ever been on, so that's kind of my barometer so far. So I have the stock controls. I've just cut off the rear view mirror. I don't even know what they're called anymore. The mirror mounts. Where was this one? This one was sliced off over here. And then this one, cut that off just to make it a little bit more lower profile. And I'll probably cut this switch thing off too, because I'm not using that anymore. And I'm gonna switch this master cylinder out to something a little bit smaller. Let's see here. Just some eBay levers or Amazon levers. I forget exactly. I'm sure you can get them on either one for like a Honda street bike. The gold ones are just the cheapest. Kind of intentionally did a shitty paint job so that the paint would wear off and the gold would soak through, so they kind of match the rest of the bike. This thing was huge. This, to me, this is the Biltwell whiskey throttle. Got this at the end of the year Biltwell sale that they didn't do this past year because of COVID. But anyway, I got it at the 2019 one for really cheap. And you can adapt them super easily to work with the stock Shadow cable. And it's like a really nice throttle assembly. So yeah, there's that. That's a really nice upgrade. And I did get the idea from Mick over in Ireland. So shout out to Mick the mechanic. Appreciate the help on that, bud. That was way back when. All right, moving backwards from that, we went over the headlight. This is the go fast switch. Always want to make sure that's on. Let's see here, carburetor. All I've done is jetted it and put some velocity stacks on it, and then trimmed all the extra bullshit off of it. Ooh, I need to zip tie that wiring harness up. That's kind of hanging down. And that's it. That's all you can really do to these. You can get these little fuel screws. You can buy those online for super cheap. And they're really nice kind of additions. But other than that, I mean, they're not necessary. You can get new bolts, you know, for taking it apart, making it a little easier. Little Allen heads here. That definitely helps for that. But besides that, there's not too much. So yeah, and there's the throttle cable, the stock throttle cable, and I got rid of the return cable. Definitely don't need those. I call those lawyer cables. Here is the tank. This and the seat I get the most questions about by far, and both of these I got at the NorCal Cycle Swap. I got them at the exact same swap. Not from the same person, but it just happened to be the same swap. This tank is some sort of stock Sportster tank that has been like properly Friscoed. So the bottom is totally flat, which was nice. And then I just reused the two mounting points that he had on there. Sealed off the old petcock spot. And then since the tank was hanging down here, let's see if I can go to the other side. Maybe I'll see it a little better. Since the tank was hanging down, because it sits perfectly flat on the rail, and it's kind of sitting off here, I decided to put the petcock inside of that, in between the frame rails, just to have something. Ooh, it's on. Let's turn that off for the winter. That's a better idea. Just to have, like, rather than kind of leaning away from that area, I just like leaned into the skid, made it and utilized it, rather than it being an eyesore, which it is. You know, I'm not saying it's not an eyesore. When you get up close, you can definitely notice it, but it kind of also serves a function. And me personally, I don't really mind it that much. And when you actually stand up, you hardly notice it. You certainly see a little bit through there, but that doesn't bother me one bit. When I bought it, it had this little dent on it. That's never really bugged me. And then it had this little lip that they integrated in, which could easily just be Bondo or extra welding or both. But man, it makes the tank so unique. You don't really see that. Most of the time the tanks just go shooting straight down, or they curve in. They don't normally flare out like that. And that's really, I've just fallen in love with that over the years. Like, the more I look at it, the more I fall in love with that. Yeah, so that's the tank. I pretty much lose a gas cap once a year. This black one seems to have stayed on, so that's good. Going down from there, these pipes I bought from son of Lane Split, Mr. Lane Split Boulevard himself, years ago, I think. Drove all the way down to San Jose to pick them up. I didn't realize you could buy Shadow parts online. So yeah, that's where those came from. I believe they're just generic, like eBay, Amazon muffler, drag pipes for Shadow 600s. One thing I've done is I've taken the heat shields off. They've gotten super crusty over the time. You can see these were on during the accident, so you can see skidding, like all the fucking, the bike fell on this side and slid across the highway. You can definitely see it on the pipes, which at first I really was embarrassed about, but now I kind of like and enjoy that it's on there. But anyway, the other thing I had done to these, besides fucking them up really bad, was slicing them open and pulling the baffles out, which gives this kind of a nice sound, having such a long snorkel on each head, or on the motor. It kind of gives it a more unique sound, but it still sounds like a Shadow, so, you know, 'tis what it is. Not too much more on the motor. The foot pegs, so I have the stock foot controls. Since that accident, I have kind of a fucked up knee, and these controls are pretty comfy for me on this bike because I lowered it since the hardtail. So I've left these. Anyway, I've made these foot pegs. I was in like a metal casting class. So these are silicate bronze, super heavy, incredibly strong. They weren't on the bike when the bike got in the accident, thank God, because they probably would have ripped like the threads right off the frame. The stock ones luckily bent up and got out of the way. These do have a little bit of bend, but not much. But yeah, one peg says death, the other one says proof. Kind of reminding myself, I guess, in a douchey way about the accident, and our own mortality and everything else. And then also, Death Proof is one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite movie.
Your chariot awaits.
Is it safe?
Oh, it's better than safe. It's death proof.
It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out, especially if you're a gearhead. It's worth the watch. Let's see, what else do we got here? Moving back from the engine, factory sprocket there, nothing's different. I do need to do a little bit of cleaning up down here, cutting off some tabs and stuff. Just haven't really gotten around to getting the angle grinder out front here. I've stripped like pretty much all of the sensors you can strip off of this thing. And there's a lot of extra sensors on these Shadows, which makes it kind of a pain in the ass stripping them down. But it's worth it. You know, the kickstand sensor, the clutch sensor, the neutral sensor, like there's so many. Just get rid of all of them. Okay, this is where, boy, I don't even know where to begin. This is where things kind of get interesting. Back here. So after the accident, the rear end, the part with the suspension on it, was like totally tweaked to one side, which happened to be exactly what you cut off when you do kind of this sort of hardtail this method of hardtailing. So I went ahead and cut it off just so I could roll it around, and then I just kept slicing more and more things off until I made the ultimate decision to hardtail it, that it would almost require that. And in my opinion, without fully like redoing the entire rear end, which is just an insane undertaking if you want to do it properly, this is one of the best looking ways to hardtail a Shadow. You can slice this guy down, you can even cut these further, you can cap these off, you can do a lot of different things with this piece, which is on both sides. You make 2 of these pieces, which is like 1 inch and 1/8 or something outer diameter. You bend them at about like 20 degrees or so. Takes a little fidgeting getting it in there, but if I was able to get it in on this thing on both sides, then you certainly can too. Now, one thing that's interesting about these Shadows is, or not interesting, but the left side of the rear end of the frame kicks out quite a bit more than the right side. So there's a couple different ways you can account for that when you're making these. So if you make them identical, the bend right here will sit in different spots on the frame. So you want to actually, it's like a 2 or 3 degree variance between either side if you want to get the bend sitting right, you know, right in line with each other. At least that's how it worked out for me, and I'm assuming that's how it's gonna work out for you if you end up hardtailing your bike. Not that big of a deal, just a little bit of fidgeting to get it in there. And the other thing I did was make a little crossbar here out of the same material, just to kind of stiffen it all up. Once that was all in, then I started like really cutting out lots of bits of the frame. That made adding a battery tray in here really easy. It also gave plenty of room for making a electronics tank. This tank I made myself out of some parts off of Bung King that you can buy for pretty cheap, compared to buying a pre-made tank. And again, it's a nice little project to do. It takes like a day if you're, you know, pretty skilled and you have enough of the tools. Maybe a little bit longer if you're still learning how to weld and all that stuff. But it's not that big of a deal to build one of these. And you can kind of custom tailor it exactly how you want it. I snuck mine up like as far up as I could, just to allow, you know, some empty space back here, some negative space. And yeah, all the electronics are stuffed in there. It's wrapped on the inside with some like rubber, kind of the rubber drawer liner you use in your toolbox. I wrapped that inside of here so the electronics banging around in there don't short circuit on each other. And then I used some door edge guard around the hole where the electronics come in, all the wires come in, just to kind of protect the looms coming in and all that shit. So yeah, this is one of the things, I forget the exact name of this. Oh, I'm gonna sound like an idiot. That's all right. It's like the ignition control module, I think. But anyway, this thing you've got to mount on the outside. It's hot, that's got to stay cold. And then the coil, I forget where I left my coil. Oh yeah, I kept the factory coil position on the front, and then the rear coil I mounted under the seat, because you're gonna have to relocate the rear coil if you start chopping all this shit off back here. So the rear coil is sitting back there. Might be hard to see, but it's right above the tank and below the seat. Now there's again a big space here. That was not by design. This bike was built on a budget, on a complete budget, and was also my absolute like first build ever. So the fact that it even is holding together is pretty impressive. But there's a couple little things that have, like, for future builds, I've like learned, you know, this little gap here, this negative space, that kind of sucks. You know, if I were to do it all over again, I would build a custom seat to sit on this so that it wouldn't have that gap. So this king and queen seat came from the same Northern California cycle swap. It's a badass cycle swap, lots of vendors, lots of parts. It's really cool always going there and scoring shit like this. I have no idea where it's from. It didn't have any tags on it when I got it. It's super fucking crusty. It looks very much like home built and then professionally covered, or at least like semi-professionally, because the cover job's really nice, but the seat pan and everything else is like kind of sketchy. I mounted it with like one of those swing mounts right here. Before I didn't have that, and it was flush with the frame, but it was just an absolute pain in the dick having to take the seat off. You had to get a socket like in between all these wires and shit and get another one back here, and it just like, it really fucking sucked. So I knew I wanted to switch to kind of a rotating hinge. The nice part about those hinges is the seat has one more bolt underneath the fender, like right about here. So you unbolt that, and then the entire seat swings up and out of the way, and you can access the entire rear end, which is really nice. If I were to build my own seat, I would do the same design, have it like swing like that. I would make this a little different so that it sat perfectly flush. And then I wouldn't have the bolt under the fender because I have my wheel pretty close to the fender. I would have it back here on the Sissy bar somewhere, just so it would be a little easier to access rather than this. It sucks, but yeah, you can see it in there. You take that, kind of the one in the middle, you take that one off, and then the whole seat pops up, which is pretty slick. So that was kind of a nice innovation on my first build, like a little upgrade from where I had it originally to where it is now. Let's see, moving further back, this fender I think was from Lowbrow. It's just one of their trailer fenders. It's like the 5-inch or 6-inch one. I forget exactly what it is, but it's just their trailer fender, the flat one. When and if you're ever doing a fender and rear tire kind of job, in my opinion, you want to definitely match the profile. So this is one of those hot rod tires, so it's a flat profile. It's like meant for a car, and this trailer fender just matches that super well. When I had the trailer fender with the factory tire on it, the factory tire just balloons out like crazy and just looks like shit. So if you buy one of these fenders and you put it on with your factory tire and you're wondering what's going on, that's what's going on. Try a curved fender on your curved tire and should look a little better. Let's see. So yeah, fender seat. Lastly, or getting close to the last. Well, okay. Another Firestone. This is the hot rod tire or whatever. Factory wheel setup, factory brakes in the rear, just painted black. And then the Sissy bar. Bought all this stuff from Bung King. You can buy all these mounts that make it like kind of semi-professional looking. You know, the mount for the dropout here, the mounts for the end of the Sissy bar. That comes up. It's one of those like bayonet style. I knew when I was building this that I wanted to pull the knife out. Come on. Oh, it gets stuck in there. You can technically pull it out. It gets stuck in the winter. It gets frozen in there. That might have loosened it. There we go. Pull it out. Just kind of cool. Definitely wanted, when I was building that, I wanted it to have that capability just for funsies. Scored this on Craigslist. Nothing fancy there. I've been told it's an actual like World War II true bayonet. I've also seen things online that say otherwise. I don't fucking know. Let me pull it out here. Let's see what it says. One side has the serial number 1118, and this side says Durkop. Durkopp. So, yeah, that's that. Pretty cool. God damn it! I'm not gonna get that back in because it goes one way now. Let's see. It's kind of inspired by like the I've seen these Sissy bar designs before where it like flares out on either side and then you have the knife right in the middle. You know, a couple of people I've ridden with even have the same similar Sissy bar design, so it's definitely not unique, and I never, you know, ever wanted to claim that it was. I just always knew I wanted a stupid bayonet on the back, so when the time came to build that, that was like the priority. Couple little hidden things. This angle here, I sort of wanted to match with the diamond stitch pattern on the seat, so it kind of continues on the diamond a little bit. That was why I've made the height of it where it is, or that's how I determined that. And then just like making the legs for the frame, the Sissy bar had to kick out a little further on the drive side than on the brake side. So that's why this leg kind of kicks out, so that it's a little bit more even. And yeah, that's always a pain in the ass when you're building a Sissy bar for these things, for these bikes. Let's see. Here's the view from this side. These things are just bulletproof. Treat them right, change the oil, keep the carb clean, and you're good. Sometimes you get backfiring issues, you know, and that can be easily resolved. Parts are super cheap to find. Customizing them can be a little bit of a pickle, but it's definitely possible. There's like so many people doing it now that there's a lot of information out there, and definitely the bar has been raised. It's pretty insane seeing all the different builds online for these Shadow 600s and like how far they're coming. So yeah, they're sick bikes. If you want to dabble in choppers and chopping up a bike and a hardtail and getting rowdy and being the envy of all your friends, this is a great way to start. I highly recommend going to cycle swaps, getting as many used and reclaimed parts as you can, because they really set the bike off quite a bit rather than that bolt-on bullshit. But every now and again you do have to buy stuff that's just made for it, and I get that too. You know, this is a good example. These levers here. Thanks for watching. I really hope this was a thorough enough video. Maybe I'll take some B-roll.